I think it's important that we refocus on what is at stake here in this investigation, in this matter. We are getting reports from the press and from a wide variety of sources that indicate that, that people are, folks are suggesting that we are conducting foreign relations with folks with security clearances via WhatsApp. I mean, every day that we go on without getting to the bottom of this matter is a day that we are putting hundreds, if not potentially thousands of Americans at risk. I mean, really, what is next? Putting nuclear codes in Instagram DMs? This is ridiculous. We need to get to the bottom of this. And in order to do that, we have to issue subpoenas because people in this administration are not cooperating. And every day that there is an insecure line of communication that could be leaked, that could be hacked, that could be screenshotted without our proper channels is a day that we are putting our national security at risk. So the reason why we have to conduct and have these accommodations is because we are a committee that is committed to protecting whistleblowers. And I do have to commend the ranking member and to see the coordination between the ranking member and the chair in a commitment to whistleblowers, not just in respecting them, but in protecting them, is really admirable and important. And I wanted to note that because this is what protecting whistleblowers looks like. When they need a certain accommodation because they fear retaliation, we have to make accommodations. This committee in particular, as the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, we have a unique responsibility to protect those that have the courage to come out and say when something is wrong, regardless of the administration. Even in prior administrations, it doesn't matter the party. When something is going wrong in government, when there is overreach, when there is an abuse or a misconduct of process, we have an obligation to see and investigate it out. And so it is so serious, especially as a New Yorker, especially as anyone who cares about the security of what happens on American soil. Every day that we have an insecure line of communication, we have a responsibility to investigate it and to make sure that we get to the bottom of it. So I just needed to put that note in, and I yield the
gentlelady yield.
Chair. Yes.
I just want to just add on to what you have said. First of all, thank you for your very eloquent comments. One of the things I want to make clear to the committee is that when there were recommendations against giving these folks security clearances, we got to think about what were the reasons. That's very important. This is not some lightweight stuff here. The disqualifying reasons were involving foreign influence, conflicts of interest, personal or criminal conduct, financial problems. In other words, these were folks who the career people, Ms. Cortez said, I mean, and by the way, these are people like Ms. Newbold who've been doing this year after year under Republican and Democratic administrations. And so you're right. We take this very seriously, as I think we all do. But it's not enough to take it seriously. We have to act. We have to do what we promised to do when we put up our hands and said we were going to uphold the Constitution and protect the people of these great United States. And so I just wanted to make it clear that this is not some lightweight thing that somebody did back in high school or something, but this is major stuff, and there's a reason why there were this information came forward, and this is a reason why people like Ms. Newbold would recommend not having these people qualified for security clearance. I yield back to the lady.
Thank you, and I'd also like to indicate and note that some of the folks that may have insecure, had their clearances overrode or recommendations against giving them the clearance overrode are even custodial staff. And folks would say, oh, that's not important. That overriding a security clearance for a custodial staff is not a big deal. But first of all, every member of this government is important and has access to important information and has power. And especially when we're talking about people that have physical presence and access to secure and sensitive physical spaces in the White House, to be potentially compromised is extremely concerning.
I thank the gentlelady. We are considering a resolution relating to the security clearance process at the White House, a process that is supposed to protect our nation's most closely guarded secrets. Not only our nation's most closely guarded secrets, but closely guarded secrets that affect the world. This resolution would authorize me to issue a subpoena for the testimony of Mr. Carl Klein, who served as White House Personnel Security Director under the Trump administration. Yesterday, I sent a memo to all committee members providing information from a detailed on-the-record interview with a whistleblower, a brave whistleblower, I might add, who currently works in the White House. This brave young lady, the whistleblower, Tricia Newbold, came forward at great personal risk to warn the Congress and the nation about the grave security risks she has been witnessing firsthand over the past 2 years. And she said during her interview with the committee staff, and I quote, and listen up, this is what she said: I would not be doing a service to myself, my country, or my children if I sat back knowing that the issues that we have could have impact on national security, end of quote. Ms. Newbold has worked as a dedicated employee at the White House under both Republican and Democratic administrations for 18 long years, giving her blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that the security clearance process works properly. She has informed the committee that during the Trump administration, she and other career officials adjudicated denials of dozens of applications for security clearances that were later overturned. As a result, she warned that security clearance applications for the White House officials, quote, were not always adjudicated in the best interest of national security, end of quote. She raised her concerns inside the White House. Inside the White House. And they targeted her for retaliation. Yet, despite these risks, she has agreed to identify herself publicly at this time because she strongly believes that the Congress must intervene immediately to safeguard our national security. In fact, she implored the committee to act now, warning that, and I quote, this is my last hope to really bring the integrity back into our office, end of quote. I just want to emphasize that point. She came forward because the system at the White House is so dysfunctional that she believes that Congress needs to intervene. In other words, she's crying out. She's begging us to do something because she simply wants her government to work the way it's supposed to work. She gets it, after 18 years. Ms. Newbold came forward out of concern for her country and national security. And she called on us to act, to do our jobs. She just said, just do your job. We do our job. She's done hers, to conduct credible, independent oversight. Now, with respect to Mr. Klein, we first asked the White House to interview Mr. Klein back in January, along with everyone else in the security clearance office. You know what they said? No. Then the committee sent a letter directly to Mr. Klein in February. He responded. He never responded. Zilch. Then the committee sent a third letter in March explaining to Mr. Klein that if he did not respond, our next step was going to be a compulsory process. He never responded to that letter. In addition, on March 1st, more than a month ago, I wrote to the White House counsel yet again, and I warned them explicitly that this was the, quote, final time, end of quote, that I was going to ask for voluntary compliance. They still refused. To this day, they have not produced a single piece of paper or a single requested witness to this committee. It was not until yesterday, keep in mind, we started in January. It was not until yesterday, after the whistleblower's claims were made public, and less than 24 hours before today's subpoena vote, that we finally received last-minute letters from Mr. Klein's lawyer and the White House saying that he would voluntarily comply. But, and there is a big but here, but there's a catch. He will come in voluntarily, but he will not answer any of our questions about specific officials, about specific security violations, or about specific security clearance adjudications. Instead, he will only talk about general policies. This is clearly not sufficient, and he knows that. And so I strongly urge my colleagues to support this subpoena. The White House needs to understand that they cannot stonewall and stall this committee for months, and then just offer us a general information about their policies, not when there's such serious allegations of a risk to national security. To my colleagues, I ask that you read the memo and read it carefully. In fact, I urge you to read Mr. Jordan's memo carefully, too, because it makes a very good case for this committee's need to see Mr. Klein and have him come in and answer all of our questions. And let me be clear. Over and over again, I hear these comments about, oh, they're just trying to embarrass the president. No, that is not true. What we're trying to do is protect our secrets. We're trying to make sure we have a process that works. And we have spent, for you who are new here, we've spent a long time over the last session dealing with clearances and information, classified information, trying to make sure it never gets into the hands of the people who it should not be in the hands of. So, again, Ms. Newbold has come forward. She said, please, you got a lady in there in the White House who is begging us to just do our job. And I beg for the same thing. With that, I yield to the distinguished, I yield to the distinguished gentleman, Mr. Jordan, for his opening, for your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I almost don't know where to start. Almost don't know where to begin. 10 days ago, on a Saturday, you scheduled a transcribed interview with Ms. Newbold on a Saturday and didn't tell the Republicans until the day before. 3:30 the day before, you schedule a 8:30 a.m. interview for the very next day. At the organizational meeting of this committee, you pledged you would not do that. You said closed-door testimony would be done so that members could attend, but you pick a Saturday on a week we're not even in session and tell us the day before. And then yesterday you issue a press release, hand-pick, cherry-pick parts of her testimony, Ms. Newbold's testimony, and you issue a big memo and a big press release after interviewing one witness. That's how we're going to do investigations in the Oversight Committee? Talk to one person and then issue a big press statement so you can get some headlines? First a Saturday deposition, then yesterday a press release after talking to just one witness where you handpick a few parts of her testimony, and now today we're going to subpoena a guy who just sent us a letter saying he's willing to come here voluntarily. I've been on this committee 10 years. I've never seen anything like this.
Oh, please.
Never seen anything like this. I haven't.
Yeah, you've done it.
I haven't. Tell you what else I've never seen. I tell you what else I've never seen. I've never seen a witness come in front of this committee and lie to us 7 times and us not, as a committee, do something about it. Won't do anything about.
No more Wilbur Ross statements, please. I'm sorry.
We won't do anything about a guy who lied to us 7 times, but we'll schedule a deposition on a Saturday of a week we're not here, notify the minority the day before, do a press release yesterday after talking to just one witness, and then subpoena somebody who's already agreed to come voluntarily. That's how this committee is going to operate. And frankly, it gets worse, because we got another resolution with 3 more subpoenas. 3 more subpoenas, one to the Commerce Department for documents, one to the Justice Department for documents, and one to a witness who's already come and set for a transcribed interview, Mr. Gore. The Commerce Department has given us over 11,000 documents. Just 3 weeks ago, the Secretary of Commerce came here, Mr. Ross, 82-year-old Mr. Ross, came here and answered questions for over 6 hours. But that's not good enough. We're going to subpoena documents from Commerce, from Justice, and now subpoena Mr. Gore, who's already set for a transcribed interview. And why are we going to do that? Why are we going to do that? Because the Democrats want to interfere with the court case. 3 weeks from today, the Supreme Court's going to hear arguments about a simple question. On the census, should we ask people if they're citizens of this great country? The Democrats say no. Most Americans think we're already doing it because we are. But the Democrats want to interfere with the court case. And you know why we know they want to interfere in the court case, with the court case? Because they said so. A Democrat member of this committee said, we want to do all this because we want information, quote, that the courts can use. That is as wrong as it gets. So we can't take action for a guy who lied to us, their first big witness at their first announced big hearing. We can't take action as a committee for a guy who lied to us 7 times, but we're going to interfere with a court case because we want information to help us in this decision not to put a simple question on the census. This is wrong. I urge all members to oppose both resolutions, to oppose all these subpoenas. Let's have this committee operate the way it's supposed to. Let's do the kind of investigations we're supposed to and historically have done. I urge a no vote on both resolutions. And I would yield now to the gentleman from Tennessee.
May I be recognized, Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution that I'd like to introduce to the committee's immediate consideration. Mr. Chairman.
He was out of time.
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Look at this, it says 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution I'd like to introduce to the committee for their immediate consideration.
Mr. Chairman, as a matter...
I recognize you, Mr. Christian Morsby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think it's my time, Mr. Chairman.
Man, you were out of time. It just didn't run. That's
You
all.
didn't run the time. And
We will get, listen to me. We will get to you right after.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll have a resolution.
I got you, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
I promised you. We don't have to go through all this.
well, I think
Mr. Christian Morphy.
I think you're making my point that I've not seen.
Mr. Christian Morphy.
Mr. Chairman, the ranking member accuses the majority of an unfair process for scheduling Ms. Newbold's interview. But as you know, Ms. Newbold came forward at great personal risk in acting as a whistleblower, and she had already been retaliated against, suspended without pay for 2 weeks prior. And so she was understandably scared about being subjected to additional retaliation. That's why she asked for a Saturday time to have her interview conducted. And in fact, none of us had any prior notice before the time that the minority did. In order to protect Ms. Newbold's rights as a whistleblower, the committee was forced to schedule her interview on a weekend. And it was necessary because we've already seen retaliation. We didn't want to see retaliation again. Ms. Newbold sat for a full day of questioning and was available until both Republican and Democratic staff exhausted all of their questions. We followed the whistleblower protocol that both the majority and the minority have agreed to follow. But if the minority would like to have her come back, if they have further questions, I think that perhaps we should have her come back and perhaps we should have her testify in public. I yield back.
Would the gentleman yield? Would the gentleman
yield? Would my friend yield?
Yes, sir.
I thank my friend. I just want to say, you know, if we had had 8 years of generosity and consideration and civility and decency in how the then majority treated the minority and its rights, the gentleman from Ohio would have a point. But the hands on the other side of the aisle are anything but clean in this respect. They trampled over the rights of witnesses. They actually tried to deter testimony when it went astray from their point of view. In Fast and Furious, for example, about gun control. They declared unilaterally that somebody had forfeited her Fifth Amendment rights in ways that were abusive. And time again, they unilaterally issued subpoenas, including in our face, without any such discussion, without any right of such discussion. This chairman, Mr. Cummings, has bent over backwards to give an opportunity to have a discussion and to have your input heard, maybe to his own detriment. Because, as I predicted earlier, I feared that by extending a courtesy never extended to us, that it would be abused. And I think we are witnessing precisely that. And I'm going to say to my friend, the chairman, that at some point, I hope we reconsider the arrangement we entered into and that the chairman exercise the rights of his predecessors unilaterally to issue subpoenas as he feels investigations warrant. I yield to the chairman. I yield to the chairman.
What?
Oh, gentleman yield.
Mr. Chair, just one other point which Mr. Jordan brought up, which is that Mr. Klein has, quote unquote, voluntarily agreed to come and cooperate with us, but he will not answer questions about specific allegations of breaches of the security clearance process, nor will he answer questions about whistleblower retaliation. He won't produce any documents. So what kind of cooperation is that, Mr. Chairman? I yield back.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Yield to me. Would you yield? Thank you. I don't want something hanging out here that is not clear. The ranking member talked about Ms. Newbold. I'm not going to let her be be victimized again. I'm not. This lady was scared. You hear me? She's scared. She's small in stature, and she's already seen what is going on in the White House. She was scared to death, and she was afraid, sadly, of our Republican colleagues. And she did not want, she wanted to be able to leave work on Friday and not be retaliated against before she left work. And so she wanted to have a short notice for the hearing. That's what happened. And I don't have any problem with trying to make sure that we work together to do these interviews. But I got to tell you, I am going to, and I will do it, and I've done it over and over again, and we have a history of doing it. I will protect whistleblowers, period. And I hope that we all can agree on that, all right?